Greetings and welcome to the Saroth the Mage Experiment. Thank you for anyone that could join me at this ungodly hour for my mainly American audience. Hey, Michelle Ambry, nice to see you. So I'll start as I usually do with like 10 minutes of music just to get me in the groove. And then I'm going to give an expert lecture on Solomonic magic, shamanism, and psychedelics. And when I say an expert lecture, I mean a rambling attempt to make sense out of the rather confusing notes that I keep in my journal. But I do think I am making some progress. I've gone from single words to whole sentences, so that should be good. Good morning, Sarlux, Frater Sarmad. I got a new Fender harmonica because I noticed that the reeds on the last one were, my voice is probably very faint at the moment. It's because I have to put it next to my speakers to get the Kaosillator vibes, but I'll take it over. Hey, Philip Blair, long time no see. Good to see you, man. Sweet as a nut. Okay, let the music begin. Oops. Okay, greetings, Stephen Ray, that's me. Michelle, Sarlux, Philip Blair. Nice to see you all this fine, what is a Tuesday afternoon for me. So I've noticed in my live streams, they're really annoying because I never get across the point that I want to get across. And I make frequent mistakes, and I just seem to get lost in the excitement of it all. So I'm going to be reading from notes, and they're not even substantial notes. They're basically just like my magical journal. But while the UK is still in lockdown, I believe some states in America are now opening up. Some others aren't. Be interesting. Hey, Charles, nice to see you, man. So can everybody hear the voice okay? They always can. You always can. It's me that finds it difficult to hear sometimes because I like the music on while I'm talking, you know. So magic is a very complex thing, really. You know, I've been practicing and studying, seriously studying and practicing for the last, oh God, 4 or 5 years doing the Golden Dawn syllabus, I think. But I'm always like, am I doing it right? Am I getting the results that I should be getting? Have I picked the right system? You know, lately I've been verging towards the sort of chaos magic idea of things, that magic is largely psychological or almost totally psychological. Doesn't mean it's not effective, but I really didn't believe in supernatural entities or so-called supernatural entities. But I have to say, I've had another kind of change. I'm always chopping and changing my ideas, and maybe I'll settle into one way of working and one way of thinking. But I mean, I don't think it's particularly helpful or useful to get stuck in a system. You know, as an experimental magician, surely you can't ignore things like the theory of evolution or the most, you know, and you have to pay attention to guys like Stephen Skinner, you know, the real scholar magicians that have come. I think the internet has made it easier for them to get their ideas across to us, but they've been trolling libraries and, you know, for these dusty old manuscripts that gives us insights into how magic was practiced from way back in the day. So here's what I wrote on the 22nd of my magical diary. Why does Solomonic magic work? And it undoubtedly does. I mean, you can't deny that these people are getting results from Solomonic magic. And Stephen Skinner says he's even had evoked spirits to visible appearance, which means you can get an actual spirit in front of you. You know, it does need smoke and stuff to materialize, but that to me was really astonishing, because the only time I've had that kind of intensity of magical experience is when I've been on large doses of dried psilocybin, which is then prepared in a tea, and you drink the tea, you fast, you meditate. You know, you say you're going to take the mushrooms on a Saturday night. Well, you'd start pretty much fasting and preparing for it all week. On the Friday, where I was doing it at my friend's house, it's a very remote location up in the wilds of Scotland. There isn't this. What the problem I have is that I'm in an inner city apartment or flat. I've got noise from neighbours there. I've got noise from neighbours there. Apparently, spirits don't like being called to places that are full of human habitation. I mean, it wouldn't be that hard. Hi, Lisa F. Long time no see. it wouldn't be that hard, really, if I had a car to drive out to some remote location. And I'm pretty sure me and Sora Star are going to try it in the summer if things ever get back to normal. So what I wrote here was, evoking spirits using precise techniques is undoubtedly possible, but why? Before the Greeks, before the Egyptians, the Sumerians, and all those ancient cultures, did humanity once possess an actual technology for talking to gods? You know? Have fragments of this ancient system survived in papyri and parchment grimoires to the present day? Is it possible that a pre-Diluvian culture received a system, maybe from an advanced race, or maybe from, if there are gods, maybe from the gods themselves, who passed on this secret like shamanically, not writing anything down, from generation to generation to generation, because that is, elements that appear in the kind of Christianized grimoires of the Middle Ages retain shamanic elements, that they're just wrapped up in Christian language, because they didn't have a choice of religions or spiritual systems like we have today. It was like you were Christian, or everybody just was Christian. It was like us saying, "Oh, I don't participate in 21st century culture." It was unavoidable that everything would be dressed in this. Oh, there's my alarm. In this Christian nomenclature, and then was it eventually lost in this? There's this constant idea in esoteric thought about a one-time golden age where everybody was telepathic, and perhaps we were contained the male and the female. I just don't know anymore. I am never sure of anything. And when I was listening to Stephen Skinner, I've been listening to a lot of Glitch Bottle. That tends to be the more traditional Solomonic, grimoire-based magic. And I love Glitch Bottle, although some of their attitudes annoy me slightly. They can be a bit sniffy about other practices, and sometimes they dismiss psychedelics in a way that I don't like, because I think psychedelics are vitally important to the practice of magic and the understanding of magic. So here we have from Skinner's own mouth: magic in the West is a broken science. I'm just going to change the setting on this for a second. Yeah, he said, magic in the West is a broken science. The Catholic Church did a very good job at eradicating as much as possible, starting right back in the 4th century. They burned down various resources in Alexandria. Alexandria was like the melting pot of the ancient world, where Egyptian magi could meet with Greek philosophers and, Arab. It was a fantastic melting pot, kind of like New York, I would imagine. Christians persecuted pagans. And he says, paganism and magic are not the same, but they do overlap. Pagans understood magic. Christians thought it was all the work of the devil, renaming pagan gods as demons. Yeah, Philip, what do you think? Yeah, it's nomenclature. Yes, I like that word as well. So then on the 23rd, I wrote, because for some reason I just got totally gripped by the idea that I was going to start conjuring goetic angels, demons, elementals. And I do have a beautiful copy of Stephen Skinner and David Rankine's The Veritable Key of Solomon. I've also got Mather's, hey, enjoy being, Mather's The Key of Solomon. And I also downloaded, I really want to get this book, Joseph H. Peterson, the lesser key of Solomon, otherwise known as the Lemegeton. Yes, that one. Because that has all the spirit lists, paimons in there, who I've been a bit obsessed with. So what I wrote was, looking into spirit conjuration, I'm seeing how difficult the process is, especially starting for me. I've got no Solomonic tools. I've got like more a sort of shamanic group of, I've got my Tibetan singing bowl, which I use for offerings. It's still got, that's not blood, by the way, that's red wine. Actually, it's fruit cider, I won't lie. But I'll tell you about the evocation I did on Friday. So especially starting with no proper tools, materials, or even a working space, because if you read, hey Baz, how's it going? If you read these Solomonic grimoires, especially the Key of Solomon, they'll say, you must go to a remote, hidden location, and basically spirits hate the clamor and even the smells of human beings. So for me to do an evocation in Torre with so much humanity here, it's daunting. I said, I am convinced I can produce results without subscribing to Christian beliefs. Excuse me, Skinner himself definitely isn't a Christian, and I don't think many of the magicians, apart from one or two, are Christians, Skinner's description of Solomonic magic resembles more a dramatic performance than a religious rite. So I've written, I have chosen to work with the Key of Solomon and the lesser key, the Lemegeton. Why can't I say Lemegeton today? I can always say it. As I already own Skinner and Rankin's, blah, blah, blah. I'd also like Aaron Leitch's Secrets of the Magical Grimoires. I actually managed to get a PDF copy of that on Scribed, which is an excellent resource for there's books on magic in there that I just can't get anywhere else. So I took the free trial. I'm going to have to remind myself to cancel it. So Aaron Leitch's Secrets of the Magical Grimoires, I expected it to be dry. Aaron Leitch, but actually it's one of the most fascinating books I've read in a long, long time. And would you believe he talks about psychedelic shamanism, which is absolutely dear to my heart, because if I practice anything, it's psychedelic shamanism. And he also uses Leary, Robert Anton Wilson's 8 circuit model to explain the psychology of magic, which was a total shock to me because I thought there was a big discrepancy between who we'd call like chaos magic figures like Robert Anton Wilson, Pete Carroll and all them, and your traditional kind of purists. But I'm pleasantly surprised that antagonism isn't there at all. I'm only like 3 or 4 chapters in to magical Secrets of the Magical Grimoires, but I absolutely would recommend it without hesitation to everyone. So I also joined some more traditional magic-y Facebook groups, because although I've been doing Golden Dawn magic for years, literally, I'm doing the practicus rituals now. I'm doing my lesser banishing pentagram rituals. I'm doing my banishing hexagram rituals. I'm doing the invocation of the 4 powers of water. And just to go off notes for a while, there's a very famous magical text called the something of Balam L and the Mage, where you basically do a magical retreat over, it's actually supposed to be 18 months. That a lot of people have kind of shortened it down to 6 months. But when I first started doing the Golden Dawn magic from that manual that I've shown you many times, it's at Sora Stars at the moment, that is equivalent of more than is asked of the Abramelin ritual. I think for the first few months, you're just saying like prayers 3 times a day in your oratory, which is just a little secret temple room. That with even at the neophyte level of the Golden Dawn on that book, You would do your morning adoration, noon adoration, sunset adoration, and then your midnight adoration. It's a Crowley exercise, a Liber. It's when you say solar bark of Ra and all that. I can't remember what it's called. Somebody might know. But yeah, so you're doing that 4 times a day. You're doing your lesser banishing pentagram ritual. You're and that builds up and builds up. So if you were to do that, Liber Resh, thank you, Baz. So if you're doing that every day, that to me would bring you the knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel. But now I sometimes think that whole period I have had of kind of new agey, I call it new agey because it was just, I would say actually not new agey, it was more shamanic kind of magic that I did with my dear friend Sule La when I was channeling and I had that vision of the Pleiadians and all that. I don't know, I'm looking at it differently. For a while I just discounted the whole thing, thought no, it was nonsense. I was kidding myself. That thing that I was channeling wasn't anything, it was just my own psychology. I still believe that to a certain extent, but I mean, there was certain information that I got that was good, and there was certain information I got that wasn't good. So take it as you will. But I will return to the subject of, I'm not going to go on and on and on today. I really like to keep these down to an hour. And by the way, did you like my last little 3-minute video? I'm so enjoying having this Kaosillator because, I mean, it does play a lot of the stuff for you. Like just now it's on like a setting where you can pick certain drum patterns and stuff, but you don't have to use the preset instruments and stuff. And I've been using it just as I lay down a bass line and then I'll do a little, and I'm absolutely loving it. So if you haven't seen that, I think it's called Church of Saroth. And don't forget to put a penny in the plate. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out what is the baseline for materials and evocationary methods and tools. What's the least I can start with? Because I don't want to, if I had to wait until I had a robe, absolutely. I mean, I do have the correct incense, a blade, but it's not just a normal blade. You're supposed to make it yourself out of like goat horn, and I mean it's very hard. There are places that sell these things, but I was kind of totting up the price, and you're looking at like 200 or 300 quid before you could even really get started. And the whole idea is that you're supposed to make the stuff yourself. It is like an energetic exchange. What you put into this rituals is what you tend to get out. So if you're just ordering everything off the internet and is it going to work, or should you put in? I'm really very new at the idea of evocation. So yeah, I'd also need things like a circle. I mean, I have got a circle painted in acrylic paint on my floor under my rug. And then I guess I could, like, there's a lot of emphasis put on purification, consecration, but we used to do that way back in the day with the Isis magic. The water one was, "O you souls of day." Yeah, pinch of salt. "O you souls of day, water dwellers, consecrators, ye of the living water of Isis." It used to go on like that. Oh, I meant to take over those Isis magazines I got as well, but another time. So yeah, you need a robe, incense, blade or blades, a sword, your circle, your triangle for the spirits to manifest in the triangle, consecrated water, parchment, or you're actually supposed to use like sheepskin, which is prepared, and it's all so traditional. And chaos magic tends to say, well, you don't need all of that, but I don't know, man, it's confusing. The list goes on and could become quite expensive. But I do feel the Golden Dawn ritual work has at least equipped me with a basic knowledge of ritual and a familiarity with divine names. You can get all sorts of apps nowadays. The planetary hours apps is really handy. You basically take it. Monday is the moon, Tuesday is Mars, Wednesday is Mercury, Thursday is Jupiter, Friday is Venus, Saturday is Saturn, and then you take the first hour of sunlight in that day, and that's the first hour. So if you do an astrology, everything's tied to astrology, and it all ties in together. So why have I suddenly turned back to traditional magic after dropping it like a hot coal pretty much after New Year? And it was because, and no offense to my teacher at the time, but he was a religious person. He was very Christian. And I thought that I was allowed to become, to take part in like rosary sessions and stuff, which I really enjoyed. And I felt were one of the most magical exercises I've ever taken part in, actually. There was groups of 3 or 4 of us that would recite the rosary together online at nights. Hey, Lord Josh, I'd love to. I'd absolutely. In fact, the more I read Lord Josh, and there was another thing that Stephen Skinner said about the Taoist tradition really being unbroken and unaffected by that Inquisition. So you've got like 18, 20 generations of Taoist practitioners. So, Taoism is very germane to the study of grimoires and stuff. I think that's why you're such a hit with Orly Stewart and some of the Become a Living God crowd, Lord Josh, because, they can see you're a genuine master of magic. Yeah, it is. It's traditional, but I just think if you look upon everything as pure, see, it was this, I think what it was actually, Josh, was that video that you made about questioning everything. And you said, yes, you do believe in spirits. And I kind of didn't. So I questioned myself and thought, well, why not, And then suddenly something flipped him and I said, well, I'm going to give it a try, God damn it. So yeah, I've actually seen robes online. They're white linen, which is, the Key of Solomon specifies it's got to be white linen. So you get them for like 30 quid. I think that would be a worthwhile investment. I'm sure I can still use my dagger, which has been consecrated by much magical use, I've got this ring. There are many things. It's really... It sounds weird to say I'm a beginner in magic, but I'm certainly a beginner in the spirit model of magic, And why did I drop it? Because I could not believe the Catholic creed and all that. I don't believe in the physical resurrection of Jesus. I have doubts if Jesus was actually a real person at all. I think it's Joe Atwill's Caesar's Messiah is really quite persuasive, but nothing is true, everything is permitted. So no stories that we tell ourselves are absolutely 100% true. They're working models, So, so the Golden Dawn has given me a basic knowledge of rituals. I'm familiar with a lot of the Christian and Hebrew names of power. So it's not like I'm starting from absolute scratch. I feel drawn to it and really do want to see if I can conjure and converse with spirits, which seem outside of me. But again, reading Aaron Leitch's book, I know he has, it was written about maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And I think he's modified some of his beliefs, but belief should be a rolling thing. You shouldn't be, I believe this, I don't believe that, and I'm not going to change my mind because I am the great mage and I know. The name Saroth the Mage is completely tongue-in-cheek because I'm very far from a mage. When somebody asked me what grade I consider myself on a comment to one of my videos, I had to say pretty much a neophyte perhaps a zealator. But I am doing the practicus grade, which is you get neophyte, zealator, theoricus, practicus. So I'm doing the practicus rituals, but did I do every single step of each grade, like all the extra reading material, all the exercises? No, I didn't. I missed quite a lot out, to be honest. Yeah, I no longer believe I have to believe in the Christian God to work with grimoires like the Key of Solomon. The other element to classical magic is the Balam L ritual, which I've always wanted to try. Making contact with the holy guardian angel apparently allows much easier contact with entities. This is what Jake Stratton Kent said. He says you need an intermediary spirit who is on your side, who looks after you, and he kind of puts in a word for you, yeah, Saroth's all right, trust him, he's a good guy. I actually wondered if people who had made contact with Thayer as my teacher had. I always wondered, well, why couldn't he just get his spirit to put in a good word with other spirits so that it would help me more? But that didn't happen. Yeah, I believe making contact with their holy guardian angel, which Crowley, who is kind of, he's criticized a lot for his egoic belief that he knew everything better than everybody else. He only had access to the texts that were available to him in those days, but now with the growth of the internet and with the occult really having, the magical revival of the 60s and 70s really having kicked in, and a generation of young magicians that started then, you've got Joseph H. Peterson, you've got Jake Stratton Kent, you've got Stephen Skinner, you've got Aaron Leitch. All these guys are making major scholarly contributions to the study of magic. Ideally, I'd like to fuse the experimental human potential elements of Robert Anton Wilson, Timothy Leary, Christopher Hyatt, Israel Regardie with the more goetic, theurgic currents. Although I always tend towards skepticism, I see a lot of people on Facebook who, they say that they're in contact with demons and they've got this demon and that demon and they work with this demon. But, if all they do is, I don't know, I think a lot of it is fantasy, to be honest. And I'm the first person to admit that, I'm no expert. I do have a very open mind. My previous ideas on magic being mostly psychological are limiting, It's like you said again, Josh, this may harm your magic if you start doubting everything that you do and not taking everything on blind faith. That magic is not about blind faith. It's about, to me, experimenting, see what works. I'll try not to pay too much attention to chat at the moment, but maybe come back with this stuff at the end. The Book of Law definitely did change Aleister Crowley's focus. And then, was he really trying to create a religion? I think, no, he wasn't. He gave express instructions to people that read his books, because he must have known that people would be reading his books 50, 100 years, 200 years from now. The Robert Anton Wilson school would say, no, Crowley was a practical joker and a high adept, and he really wanted to question, people question everything. But I'm sure there was a part of Crowley that really would have liked to found a religion, if only because, it's hard. I know from being born into quite a well-off family and then suddenly it plunge and then you're poor. Crowley must have longed for that lost Garden of Eden of being wealthy. He needed money. He lived in desperate poverty for some of his life. And a religion, look at Ron L. Hubbard and how he profited from a religion, or Joseph Smith. So, I'm not going to go from the psychological model to some suddenly saying, "Oh, I'm a demonologer now, and I'm wanting to hang out with become a living god, and get myself interviewed." Although I have watched some EA quitting stuff lately, and he's not a stupid guy. I think it's his marketing that annoys people rather than what he actually says about magic. Yeah. I felt myself settling into the mantle of armchair occultist. I was talking about magic all the time. I was thinking about magic all the time. I was reading about magic all the time. But I wasn't actually doing any rituals or any magical stuff at all. So lately I have been, even if I'm at Solar Stars, and I would never do like invocations or evocations at someone else's house, especially if there are children in the house. I do them here. I have been getting up because we go to bed really early. I don't need much sleep. So I've been getting up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, doing my rituals, writing up my journal. It's been fantastic. I'm really kind of dreading life going back to normal. But does it have to go back to normal? And what is normal? So the Golden Dawn system that I've been doing, it can be dry. You don't get spiritual fireworks. You don't get entities appearing while you're doing banishing pentagram rituals and stuff. And the Theodicus grade being the air grade, the idea is that you incorporate these in a shamanic way. And this is something Aaron Leitch says, if I ever get on to the notes about Aaron Leitch. The elemental grades are really the kind of idea of the shamanic dismemberment. So you're figuratively and symbolically separating yourself into earth, air, fire, and water, or earth, air, water, and fire as it is in the Golden Dawn system, and then reconstituting yourself in a better form. And that's exactly what the 8 circuit model suggests that you do is look at these imprints that you've got, these hardwired responses we have. You've got the first circuit, oral biosurvival. So you go towards things that are nurturing and retreat away from things, and it shows how someone can be really fucked up by their childhood and how you can go back and reprogram yourself so you're not fucked up anymore, which seems like a really good idea to me. So Theodicus was a very difficult grade for me because I am an air sign. I'm Aquarius. I'm very Aquarius. So it was very difficult. It makes you more like the Earth grade was really good for me, Zealator, because I wasn't grounded at all, and it made me more grounded. It got me my job. It allowed me to work hard and get settled, whereas I'd just been a sort of art dropout, drug taker, it kind of snapped me out of that. And I do believe it has absolutely concrete effects, this stuff that we call magic. So I'm not betraying my previously held beliefs that there was no such thing as spirits, but I when I hear really intelligent people saying, no, there absolutely are objective spirit entities, and if you do this, 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 and this, they will come. Who am I to doubt them? Do I know better than them? No, not at all. So yeah, I know there is something to this evocation stuff. One of the things that always held me back from traditional magic is my lack of astrological knowledge. I mean, astrology is a lifetime study in itself. But I mean, there are apps. Moon Phases app, I use that all the time. Planetary Hours app. So I don't think you really have to be an expert in astrology, although it does help. So if there are any astrologers out there who would like to, team up and maybe conduct a series of experiments or rituals, I'd be up for that. Also, I've written here, this was on Tuesday, and Tuesday is my day home day. What's that? Oh no, I'm writing that for the preparation. This was on like Thursday, I think. So I'd planned to do Invocation today. Yes, it was Thursday, because then me and Sarah Star were sitting discussing it. I mean, Sarah Star is fabulously psychic and gifted. And she was like, well, why not just do it tomorrow when you go home instead of waiting until Tuesday? Because Tuesday is ruled by Mars, which isn't considered one of the most beneficial planets to work with. So I came back on Tuesday, although we had a good drink on the Monday night and I was slightly hungover. I consecrated all my dagger, my bowl, my ring, my shaman pouch. I used water that Soleil had made called lotus water, I think. We got the formula from the Isis magic book. I rolled back my carpet to show the circle, and I did a evocation of Haggith or Agate or Haggit. I'm not quite the Venusian spirit, Olympic spirit from the Arbitel of magic. So luckily I had some benzoin, which is a Jupiterian incense. I got some daffodils which are still remarkably healthy. That's a I guess, yeah. Maybe not supernaturally preserved there. I had an apple, which is green. Green's the color of Venus. So it was haggis. That's exactly what I thought, Charles. It's a case of, to start with anyway, throwing as many things at this practice as you can, as many Venusian things, getting myself into a meditative, altered state of consciousness, which isn't easy, because someone that's been taking not only, cannabis and all that kind of stuff, but much harder drugs for 2 decades, it's not easy to get into an altered state of consciousness just by meditating. But I did. I had clouds of incense. I stank of incense for about 2 days. And at the exact hour of Venus, not the first hour of the day, it was like the 2 o'clock it was. I started the evocation from the Arbitel of Magic again, which is a very Christian grimoire, but I think it's a case of suspending your disbelief. And for that afternoon, I was a devout Christian. I mean, Olympic spirits have got nothing to do with Christianity anyway. So, So I did the evocation, and I did actually think I got kind of a result. It certainly didn't appear in the incense smoke, but just as I'd started the evocation, my window blew open. And I did get kind of a little bit of call it a channel, if you will, and it said some stuff, but that has to be kind of secret. It did tell me I'd get this check that I've been waiting for pretty much months now. The check didn't come. Venus is, you can ask it for money, you can ask it for love. I want knowledge, I don't want money. I've got love. I want magical knowledge and familiar spirits, So the check didn't come. It's still not here. But I did get an unexpected pay from a job that I haven't done hours for. I wasn't expecting a pay, but because I'd done that ritual, I kind of was expecting a pay. And I got a teeny little bit of pay. So don't let that put anyone off making a small donation to my PayPal, because things are pretty tough at the moment, guys. Us artists, we can't make a living like normal people. So, where was I? So, yeah, I've written a whole heap of stuff about how I was going to try to do a more Solomonic thing. I was going to consecrate paper and write the god names just on paper and place it around the circle. But I decided to go for the much easier Arbitel evocation. Another brilliant podcast I listened to again on Glitch Bottle was Al Cummins, a book of excellent magic by 2 contemporaries of John Dee, I think. I haven't written down their names. But it's strange how in their very psychedelic, I must say, rituals, they were getting historical figures from the past show up. And that was very much like the channeling sessions me and Soleil used to do. We used to get Metatron, Jesus, Thoth, Isis, all these guys showing up. I don't know. So I've written here, the mages summon shades of real and fictional characters. And it reminded me of like modern magicians working within Necronomicon, which was written by Peter Lavenda. But does that make it any less real? So there is something to my idea of there being these egregores that are up there in the astral plane because we have energized them with our prayers and thoughts and incense for sometimes hundreds of years. So they do exist in that form, I believe. But I think they are also real as well. So do we have to go through the ordeals and torturous mental machinations and astrological calculations to open the higher circuits? Traditional magicians like Aaron Leitch can be a little bit pedantic and a little bit fussy. But I think Aaron Leitch, actually, after reading his book, I revised that opinion of him. But Stephen Skinner definitely kind of turns his nose up at the idea of taking magic mushrooms and doing evocation, which I can see because they can be quite chaotic. But the way we used to do them, like I say, was very structured. You know, we'd fast, we'd drink water, we'd do it in a place far away from human habitation. We would cleanse with incense, you know, put it in a total, you know, set and setting. So the setting was a total magical temple with candles, incense, all this. Hey, Calendal, how's it going, man? So I'm still convinced that the easiest and best way of getting the idea of what magic is to take psilocybin, not LSD. It's not strong enough. Psilocybin all the way. Yeah, and I can't help but think maybe not equating himself, but guys that style himself on this, you know, edgelord, you know, heavy metal kind of thing. I don't know. I've got my reservations. Okay. If anyone's interested in my horoscope, rising sign is 7 degrees Leo, sun 22 degrees Aquarius, moon 14 degrees Sagittarius, Mercury 0 degrees in Aquarius, Venus in Aries, Mars in Scorpio, Jupiter in Libra, Saturn in Aries, North Node also in Aries. So here's what I've written about my evocation. I'll have to watch my time, actually. I'm probably not going to get on, or should I just skip right on to the Aaron Leitch bit? So it is, honestly, it's a fantastic book. I absolutely recommend it. So yeah, reading Secrets of the Magical Grimoires. First chapter sets the historical background. Interesting that the bubonic plague from China dented faith in the Catholic Church. You know, they'd been all powerful up to that point. And the Jews, because of their strict religious observances and their focus on cleanliness, ritual cleanliness, they got off much lighter in the bubonic plague, the Black Death, than the Christians. So the Pope and the Catholic Church had been saying, it's okay, Christians, don't worry. The Black Death is a kind of ascension or a cleansing, and we Christians will be fine. And of course, Christian Europe was absolutely decimated. So that shook faith in the absolute authority of the Catholic Church. Oh, damn. It's so my diaries are so confusing, guys, honestly. Yes. So the plague ended and pretty much the Renaissance began. The printing press, absolutely essential, 1450. That means that literate people could access the Bible. You know, that was the big thing in the Protestant Reformation, was that people had started to read their own Bibles. And it was like, hey, hold on, it doesn't say anything about giving priests loads of money to get like a free pass into heaven. I also read that grimoires were passed orally. This is the thing about, is there a tradition of oral reception? You know, the Kabbalah reception, that's what it means. Was it going back to some golden age? It's a bit of a sci-fi theory of mine, but it's not a terrible theory. Chapter 2 describes similarities between grimoires, shamanism, and African spirit cults. Shamans wear spiritual special garments and interface with the spirit world while having a special relationship with a few of these spirits. And then I thought back to my big trips. Could not my mantis being and lion people be spirits? You know, a lot of the demons in the Goetia have lion faces or kind of weird hybrid insect faces. So I'm now going back to those experiences I had and thinking maybe I didn't just, maybe all did have some deeper meaning. Secrets of the Magical Grimoires moves from shamanism to biblical prophets. I've always thought the biblical prophets were out their heads on a variety of drugs. Points out many similarities with Moses journeying into celestial and infernal realms. Then he goes on to the Merkaba or Merkava mystics, who were, I love this idea of a clerical underground. They were like underemployed, literate, I guess you could call them kind of university dropouts, because, the church was everything in those days, or the religion of the people was everything. And these guys were like a clerical underground, a heretical underground, a kind of revolutionary movement with it, the underbelly of the church, which I really love. I love rebels. Clerics and scribes associated with religious structures, but not really important parts of it. Magic is rebellion. I also detect much psychedelic vision material in the Hebrew stuff. Shamans work with altered ecstatic states of consciousness. Priests and ritualists anybody can do a ritual if they've got enough money to buy the robes and the blah, blah, blah. But can anyone become a shaman? I'm not quite sure. Then Leitch describes various models of existence, the three worlds of various kinds: animal, human, divine, natural, mathematical, theological, sky, earth, underworld. Agrippa is very 3 books of occult philosophy. Going to read that one again. Agrippa's idea of a world soul, and this idea that everything has life, crystals have life, animals have life, and it can all be sort of multidimensionally combined in weird ways. If you were trying to, us in 3 dimensions, if we were trying to communicate with a 4th or 5th dimensional being, we'd have to do it using all our senses, wouldn't we? Agrippa's idea of the world soul, and an idea I share, that the universe, galaxies, stars, etc., comprise a being, just like we are composed of, inside us is a galaxy or a solar system or indeed a universe. I believe we are cells in a universal being. And this is an idea that I talked about with the Lost Word podcast, like the Johnson family. That's a Burroughs reference. Like it, Baz. So I'm going to have to return to some of these comments. I'm over an hour. Are we the cells in the next phase of evolution, which I believe will be artificial intelligence. And I think I'm going to leave it there for now. It'll give me lots of material for my. I like these Tuesday spots. So, Kalendal, hello, Sarah. Thanks for the welcome. I have encountered at least one spirit who I know is a friend. I would like to share ideas with you over a chat soon. Absolutely, Kalendal. I'm actually going to be starting kind of interviews again, but I can't do them live. A guy called Anon Mess Age contacted me on Twitter, and all you have to do is flatter me a little bit and said, oh, I really like your YouTube channel. It's really one of the more interesting ones out there. Do you want to talk about occultism in rock music? I think that's what he wants to do. So we're going to record that on Skype, and I'm just going to put these out as interviews, you know, and I can't edit, so they'll just be live, but they'll be recorded. So Kalendal, definitely. But I'm actually thinking of approaching some of the bigger names. Even, you know, I occasionally talk to Jake Stratton-Kent on Facebook, so he might agree, you know. Also, I'd like to point out an interesting channel that I've just found called Deep Magic by a guy called Julian Vane, who is a stalwart on the British occult scene. Very interesting channel. He's been doing these tiny little 5 to 10 minute videos where people bring on their magical thing. You know, it's like something that means something to them. So, yeah. Imagine if we were in a dimension 5G or higher, we'd be able to observe. Yeah, exactly. You've got to be outside a system to fully see into it, you know, and that's what I think psilocybin does for me. You get so out of your three-dimensional world that things like language, names, all that stuff seems really silly. Levi was mentioned earlier. You recommend Eliphas Levi, Sarlux? He has a very interesting take on magic. Crowley, of course, believed he was a reincarnation of not only Edward Kelly, Dee's Scryer, but Eliphas Levi. I've got actual transcendental magic down there. Prospero, I haven't seen him for a while. I've been using his beautiful bookmark that he sent me. It's in the Key of Solomon at Solar Stars right now. And he also sent me the book Transcendental Magic. So that's really nice that people are so kind as to send me things, you know. I also got this skull. I don't know if you're still here, Lisa F. But that was a very early gift I got when I just started the channel. And it's little things like this that keep you going, you know. So I quite enjoyed that today. I think it is better if I write in sentences rather than words and then don't even pick up the notebook to read the words. Because I've listened to like half an hour. I find my own voice very difficult to listen to. Yeah, Lisa F, you are still here. Solar Star's got one at hers, and I keep mine here. So thank you so much for that, Lisa F. So, thanks. Anybody got any last comments? No worries. It was a good one. I enjoyed this today. Definitely going to work on the notes more and try and make my... I didn't get onto that on Leitch bit, but I mean, I haven't finished the book yet. So I'll finish the book and I will cover it next Tuesday. Because there's so much, you know. I think for people in the more sort of UFO community, I really think you're missing a trick. And you should really read more occulty stuff, because if you ask me, there are no nuts and bolts spaceships have ever reached Earth. They are all magical phenomena. Okay, with that, I will leave you. I'll play a little bit of music. Thank you all very much. everyone. Peace out.